abortion has torn this country apart. There have been great debates, there have been protests, there have been marches. We've heard what took place just this past June. Many of us have waited many years. Many of you have been the foot soldiers that have been there praying and wishing that things would be overturned. Tamarra and I have met many times. During my time in the General Assembly, we even sat down to talk about what are the things that we could agree on when it comes to women's health care. And there are many. As a healthcare professional, as a nurse who started right here in labor and delivery at St. Anthony's Hospital, and most of you will know that hospital doesn't exist anymore, so start counting the years and you'll probably forgot how old I am. But I started my career in labor and delivery right here, taking care of moms, making sure that they had the care that they needed, because at that time, much of that healthcare need and obstetrics was outreach into the community. So as we pause now, a nation of 49 years, the fight now and the discussion comes back to the states. Abortion's topic today, role reversal. It's not new in our discussion. The matter of abortion and women's health continues. Many will probably find some common ground that we can talk about when we talk about passionately about women's health. For over 40 years, I've worked in the corporate health sector. As a former state representative, worked on many pieces of legislation that were not only for women's health and pro-life, but also pro-women, and pieces of legislation to protect children from abuse and neglect, and making sure that they have the health care resources that they need. As a bioethicist, I've sat at a nurse, I've sat at the patient's side, and I've listened to their issues that are important to patients over the years. I have always, as an ethicist, fought for the right to life. I've been passionate, and I will not ever decry that. I've been unabashedly pro-life, pro-woman, and pro-family. So 19 days after the historic reversal of Roe, is there any common ground? That's the question I put before all of you. That's the question that you'll have to think about this November when you have the opportunity to vote on the constitutional amendment. We talk about what most Kentuckians want, but by the makeup of the Kentucky General Assembly, most Kentuckians have sent members of the House and Senate to be their ambassadors, to be their representatives, to push a button, either yay or nay. And when they cast that vote, I know, I'm a former member of the General Assembly, you're casting that vote to represent your constituency, your home base, your community, and Kentuckians. What they have done in a manner is this November, they're giving you Kentuckians the ability for the first time to push a button and vote yes for life. We have a supermajority yes of both chambers, reflecting the values of Kentuckians. Reflecting the values and the pro-life values of Kentuckians. It says Kentuckians care about women and they care about the unborn child. I guess what I want to talk about as we talk about this area of self-determination for women, the responsibility of ensuring that if she becomes pregnant, she can do what she wants to. The point of departure that we share on women's advocacy is because we differ on some very critical matters on human biology, when life begins. And for all of us, and when you cast the vote this November, you're going to have to ask yourself that question. The members of the General Assembly have asked them that question. And for over 100 years, the laws of Kentucky have reflected the values of Kentucky. Kentucky has been a pro-life state. You can go back to 1910 and move forward. And you look at the laws passed by the General Assembly over the last few years. They continue to reflect that value. But we must ask ourselves, human biology, when does life begin? What degree does women's autonomy and self-determination, to what extent would it allow her to terminate the right of another human being? It's a hard thing to think about. We say abortion, and we have camouflaged those words and language many times. They've been coded over the time as bodily autonomy. I'm all for women having the right to make healthcare choices. We make some of the major choices. I see some that I knew from the insurance industry when I was a legislator. Women are the major deciding factor on what insurance policy to choose, selecting the health care for their children, what doctor to choose for their family, and whether their child is sick or not. But this bodily autonomy that will cost the life of a child, we each individually have to think about when we cast our vote this November. Can we agree with the biological research that confirms that human life, from conception to fertilization, begins as one life? It is a whole, genetically distinct, The individual zygote, the human person, that organism at that time, is a member of the Homo sapiens species. It needs only the proper environment to grow and develop. The only difference between the individual at that stage and adult is the form that it is in. It is not the nature. The nature of that individual is already formed. So we will debate whether we can agree on when life begins. Do we differ on human rights? Is there a hierarchy? We must all ask ourselves, is there a hierarchy of human rights? So as I guess we just have our discussion, I see Joe moving this way. We'll leave that to some of your questions, but it's a question for all of you. Is there a hierarchy between the rights of the mother and the rights of her child that grants her the right to terminate that life?
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite both of you to stand now if we could, to both sides of me here. Tony Constatman is one of our board members. She already has many questions. If you have other questions, if you haven't written yours down yet, we have several board members, including Tom Van der Rosstein on this side, who are happy to pick those questions up and deliver those to the back of the room.